Welcome guys to another beautiful day in Vegas. However, this video is not going to be primarily taking place in Vegas because a car popped up, specifically a Mark IV Supra, and it just happened to fit the bill for something very specific I've been looking for. And I know one thing you guys asked me for was some videos from the shop even while I'm gone, so I thought this was a perfect opportunity, and I tasked Johan and Sean with going to pick this car up. But instead of taking the trailer, I said, why don't you guys take the R33 giveaway car so they could both enjoy it, make sure the car is 100% sorted, and capture some cool content with it, because at midnight tomorrow, the R33 giveaway, where every $5 you spend on lzmfg.com gets you entered for a chance to win the car and $10,000 cash, is gonna be over tomorrow at midnight. So if you've been looking at any specific merch, Heatwave sunglasses, bolt kit, Griot's detailing products, or even a set of BC coilovers will get you like over 200 entries. Now's the time, so don't miss out. Link is in the description, and enjoy the content that the guys captured back home in sunny Florida.
On these M6 trying to race. Sean got us lost. His phone froze in the middle of Miami. Actually, yeah, whatever. South Florida, but we're almost there. We raced the NSX, the new NSX.
Google Maps.
He's upset with Google Maps.
Oh, what's behind us? What's behind us? Sickler mobile.
Liking my car, but 1,000 times better. All right, so as you saw when we were pulling in, you saw that clean Mark IV, and so we pull up to drag internationals, and of course we're not going to pull up here and not get at Mark IV. So we found this Mark IV, really clean, original RSP Royal Sapphire Pearl car, 6-speed turbo Mark IV Supra. You see the rims looks familiar. It has this nice carbon fiber lip, Series 2 bumper, fog, with turn signals, crispy headlights. They're so nice. Sean is pumped. Interior is clean, really clean car. So let me pop the hood real quick for you guys, and then we gotta head back. But pretty clean engine, stock twins, aftermarket radiator, has a Greddy in the cooler, but the bay is being repainted and everything, so it's really clean. So I did a quick little test drive before we pulled out. The car pulls good, it's nice, like nice rear wheel drive, painting tires and stuff, so not bad. I'm excited about this car. Yo, what up? We just left for lunch, left from lunch, so we're heading up. It drives good. It's like stock Supra, but with like an exhaust intake or whatever, so it pulls pretty good. Spins the tires. What's up, everyone? So we have both the cars here standing next to each other, and we are going to briefly give you a rundown on the differences between them. They are identical cars apart from one being swapped over to a GTE motor, and then Adam's car being an NXT, which they were converted it from a non-turbo chassis to a turbo chassis. They both look identical, and the stereo, apart from the OEM lip versus the carbon lip, the one thing you will notice is Adam's car has the TRD option side skirts and rear spats, and then it has the OEM style lip, where this one does not have the side skirts or the rear spats, and it came with a carbon aftermarket lip. Apart from that, both cars are identical. They're both RSP. They're both turbo, so that's cool. Both come with the B161, which is the transmission that comes in the later model Series 2 SCRs, and they're still 6-speed, still the same V160 style transmissions, just newer. Both cars has the same transmission. The rear ends we could verify with the bend plate when we open the hood and show you the difference in the hood, if what style differential comes in both. But both should have the same diff. So, but yeah, if we go to the interior, you can see that Adams has the Ricardos, but he put these ones on. I don't know if this is the OEM Ricardos that will come on the later Supras, like the 2001, 2002. They do come with Ricardos, but I don't know if the imprint is the correct one. But on the interior, apart from the Ricardos, they're both almost identical.
I think they're literally identical.
Yeah, no, they are.
There's no difference.
Yep. So on this side, you will be able to see, I'll show you Adams, but the Series 2, the biggest thing to tell is it has a 3-gauge spot right there. This one's more like a OEM style. Most likely the seats that came with the car.
Stock steering wheel.
Stock steering wheel. It's pretty tight to see two RSP.
It's kind of weird.
6-speed cars next to each other.
Riding up in the golf cart, I was like, this is weird.
Yep. And it looks cool from that side coming this way.
Yeah.
The only difference mechanical, apart from the wheels obviously, is on this car. So these cars are originally non-turbo chassis, so this has the non-turbo brakes on the rear, but this one was converted to the turbo brakes. They're way bigger calipers. They both say Supra, but you could tell there's slightly size difference. On the rear, just like the front, there's not much different. You can tell on the rear now, there's no rear spats on this car versus Adam's car. And then the tail lights are the same. These are Series 2 tail lights. You can tell by the trim surrounding the lights is gray versus a Series 1, which will be black.
We have.
Right. Yours is black, mine's black.
Yeah.
Jealous, but yeah, these are the Series 2 tail lights, so everybody rather have these tail lights. Yeah. I want to put them in my car eventually, but these look better. Both cars are the same. So on this one, as you seen already before, it was a GE motor. They kept the GE everything and then just upgraded to a GE turbo kit. So now it's turbo, but this is how it will come as a non-turbo chassis without all this. Now we went to this one, as you saw before, the engine bay is being painted, but it's a GTE swap has been put in the car. So for those of you that don't know, these cars came non-turbo and turbo, and there's two variations of the engine. It's the same engine, but the head is slightly different. And this is a turbo version, and that's a non-turbo version. This is how the car came. It has already plenty of bolt-ons. It's fun to drive. It has plenty of power, you know, for somebody that just wants to have a nice weekend cruiser. And it's been completely painted already, so that's good. That one has HKS coils. This one has Tyne coils, or whatever you pronounce it. Teens. Whole setup is nice. It's being serviced. It's good. It's clean.
Well, I think we know which one's gonna win the drag race. The little pull.
It's hard to say. So this one has a good pull. I had never got on this one, so I don't know how responsive it is. But it's not.
No,
it's slow.
It's not.
We'll see. We'll get Sean out here, and I'll let him drive that one since he didn't get to drive it, and I'll take that one out. Do a little drag race here. I don't know.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, 500 feet.
Yeah. Who goes in the pond first? Let's find out. All right, well, we don't have a guy at the line, so I'm gonna try and be both and film, so we'll see. Alright. Sean really wanted to drive Adam's car, and I kept telling him that makes no boost. It needs to make boost. New one makes boost. Congratulations,
That was a pretty good race.
Yeah. I told you this one makes boost.
Okay.
That one don't make no boost.
I would have gotten you in top end though. As soon as we got close to the pond.
I fucking brake with the e-brake, bitch. Did you? Really? Yeah. Okay, good.
I spun too much though.
Yeah,
You need the length of 46 to be able to get into boost in this one.
That one for sure.
Really?
You got Pilot 4S's on that
Yeah,
thing.
bro. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, line up again. Let's go.
I don't know about you guys, but that was pretty fun for me to watch. And I gotta say, seeing the two Royal Sapphire Pearl Supras right next to each other, I wish I could be there. It looks so freaking cool, and I cannot wait to explain to you guys what my mastermind plan is with these two cars and what's gonna happen with them. To end this video out, I had the pleasure of filming with Logan from Defined Auto Works with his amazing NA4 rotor RX-7, and it didn't really fit in any other videos because it's a pretty long, lengthy segment, but I know you guys wanted some tech talk and deeper dives on cars, so I thought I would put it at the end of this video and let you guys enjoy hearing us nerd out over all the super cool little details on his car. So here's that. Also, you might have seen on social media that Logan's truck, trailer, and car all got stolen in Colorado, and I am happy to let you know that he was able to recover the trailer and the car. Not the truck. He's got insurance on it, but he's still on the hunt for it. I will put information for his Instagram account where you can see a listing of what his truck looks like in the description. Maybe you guys can help him find it, but I'm so thankful that the car isn't gone because that thing is special. Check it out. I was lucky enough to have some sort of say in the guests and the cars that come here, and one car that I have been very excited to see in person that I'm stoked was able to come out here is a 4-rotor RX-7 owned by Logan from Defined Auto Works. Logan, what's up?
How's it going, man?
So we already did a walk around with your car, and we had to keep it kind of short and not crazy technical because it was for the show. But being one of my favorite cars here, I'm glad you were able to swing by on the last day for us to go into a little details with it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, for sure.
Gonna have to wait for that. That's a thing here. Before we dig into the technical details, I want to know the story, where this thing started and how it got here.
Man, it's such a long journey, you know. It's I mean, really probably started way back. I played around with doing natural aspirated instead of turbo because I had done quite a few 2-rotor turbos in the past, and I actually tried just removing a turbo off of a turbo engine, doing a little bit of porting to it, and just making it NA, and it made a whole bunch of power and felt great. And I'm like, man, if a 2-rotor feels like this, I'm like, what would you just add more rotors and keep it natural aspirated? So I bought a 3-rotor from Japan, you know, took it apart, street ported, added higher compression rotors, and just kind of kept progressing with it. Eventually I went dry sump, made like 475 to the wheels with a lot of development. But after that, then I'm like, okay, now we gotta go, you know, even crazier and do 4 rotors. So that's where this kind of evolved. It started out as a 3-rotor, kind of stock body. It didn't really have anything going for it. It's just black. And then once I put the 4-rotor into it, added a sequential transmission to really, you know, work in harmony on the power band. I was like, you know, the body's kind of lacking. It sounded wicked, but it just looked like a regular RX-7. So I drew up sketches a long time ago when I was in a car accident. Had nothing to do, only time on my hands. I'm like, this is what I want the next RX-7 to look like. And I drew out like a GT300 inspired body with a 4-rotor in it. And it took a lot of years to finally get there, but this is that exact like drawing that I had in place, you know, all those years ago.
And I thought it was an actual kit. I think, is there a TCP Magic kit that, like, I know it doesn't look anything like this, but
similar.
It has a similar like wideness.
Inspired by,
And with your colors, it's hard to kind of tell exactly in photos what's going on with the body lines.
Yeah.
But I was blown away. I still think one of my favorite things about this car, other than the engine, of course, the fact that it's all handmade aluminum wide body.
Yeah, it's all aluminum. I was going for something that, you know, I wanted it to be really durable, and I'm not good at any kind of body work, and so fiberglass and like making molds and sanding it smooth is just not my forte. And I was like, you know, mocked it up out of cardboard, like wood stick frame, and I'm like, if I can make it out of flat sheets of paper, aluminum is going to bend the similar kind of way. So once it's in paper, I'm like, I think I can do this in aluminum. So we just started, you know, cut it out of aluminum and bended it.
So would this be a bend or this would be a weld here?
This is actually a weld here. So this was the most challenging weld I've ever had to do on all 4 fenders, because this is only 16th thick aluminum, which I have a little repair job there. But I actually had to weld that seam all the way along and not create any kind of warpage, you know, because all that heat from TIG welding is, you got to be super careful. And I mean, making fixtures to hold that, it was insane. It took me hours.
What would the weight of like this be compared to like a carbon setup?
It's not like grotesquely heavy, but I would say it's probably twice the weight at least of carbon.
What I like about the aluminum is for drift cars, you know, fiberglass, even carbon, we crash, we break.
Right.
I guess I don't know if it would be better with aluminum because we would probably dent them.
Yep.
But at least like my biggest thing is I want to have a car that's low, and I hate fiberglass fenders in the front because once you rub on them, they crack, they break.
Yeah, I didn't want to, that's the, like, I don't have to deal with spider webbing or anything. The biggest thing you'll find is like little, you know, dimples from rocks coming up and just slamming into it. So you get a little texture there over all the years of rocks just slamming it. But otherwise, you know, just it holds up for forever. I mean, it's extremely durable. And it's kind of cool when it's like all metal body.
Oh yeah.
You know, like no fiberglass or anything.
So rotaries to me, I feel like the typical mantra is they're unreliable, they have issues, and I don't think it was until I met Vargas that I saw like, okay, he can make a 13B and go do some ignorant stuff with it, like, and he can make it pretty reliable. In 4 rotors, I thought like, okay, this is even the crazier thing, because, you know, I'd seen some of Rob Dom's videos. I think he was having a lot of issues in the beginning, and it was like, all right, this is something that I would never want to do because I don't want that life.
Yeah.
And then I think I found out about you, maybe it was through a YouTube video or through Instagram, and I think you said you've been running on the same setup for, what was it, 3 years?
That engine ran for 8 years.
8 years
8 seasons.
on an NA 4-rotor.
And then last about a year and a half ago was the first time I took it out and tore it down, just because I kind of felt like it was time. And honestly, everything inside of it easily could have gone like another 5-6 years. Like the side plates had a little bit of wear, but all the apex seals, all the housings look basically brand new. I mean, it was incredible.
So I mean, that, like, my dream car always is something that requires 0 maintenance, that I can just go out, drive, and enjoy. Never thought of that when I was thinking about rotaries, but if I can have the sound like you have with this car in my 4-rotor car, and be able to have a car that I can just turn on, go drive, and enjoy. And now I know that there's some peculiarities, and like I'm learning the oil system is one of them. but it's pretty freaking cool. It's like think about a similar F1 style engine, like let's say the Judd V10.
Right.
Not saying that because Turk has one in his Supra. The maintenance on an engine like that, it's like a complete teardown. What is it? Every 100 hours or something?
Yeah, every 100 hours probably at least. And then really like startup procedures. I mean, I always try to warm this up before I run it, obviously just to keep things happier. But it can be like 0 degrees, and you know, you can crank it up and start it and it won't like spin all the bearings or anything. On piston engines, the more extreme they get, the tolerances are so tight. Like even an F1 engine is actually locked up at room temperature. They have to physically heat it before it even will roll over. A rotary is kind of like this little dirty motor by comparison, but it puts out a phenomenal amount of power, and it's kind of just like set it and forget it type of motor. I mean, I really enjoy how robust it can be.
So looking around on this car, it's got a lot of cool, very interesting bits that like everywhere you look on this car, there's something to talk about. The favorite thing of mine, of course, is the center lock mag TEs. Now these you said came off of, what was it, a GTR?
GTR from the GT500 class, which would be the JGTC Championship Series in Japan.
So cool.
Only race teams kind of had the ability to purchase these, and you can't find them, you know, like you couldn't call up Volk and like buy them as a person. You'd have to be like the race team. So I got like find a secondhand set and shipped them on over, and they rode true. Luckily, they weren't bent, and yeah, they've been working ever since.
The center lock is definitely something that I want to do on one of my cars. I'm a little bit nervous to do like an aftermarket center lock. Have you had any issues, or has it been pretty?
No, it's been super solid. This is actually, so I bought a Gen 1 Daytona prototype a while ago, and it's center lock also. And ironically, like this exact hub, this is an exact replica. I took them a Daytona hub and I'm like, make this, but with the 5-pin for an RX-7. Like it's a 5x114 pin drive. Ironically, I guess because it's Japanese wheel. And so I just did a Daytona hub with a 5 bolt pattern for the pins. And so that's exactly what that's a Daytona prototype lock nut, Daytona prototype hub, basically.
So I've only known of like there being like, let's just call them bolt-on center lock adapters. This is just like a custom thing that was made.
Yeah.
So there's no adapter. So I imagine it'll be a lot safer.
It's a lot safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can eliminate like the bolt interference area of it, then you're gonna have less hassles. But I mean, even a bolt-on adapter, if you know, use Loctite and like check it periodically, I don't think it'll give you a whole lot of issue. But definitely having it like one piece is the ultimate way to do it.
Especially for a race car like this.
Yeah.
And speaking of race car, I know you've got a lot of NASCAR parts on this thing too. So what on this derived from a NASCAR?
So the whole braking system, the front calipers, the rear calipers, and then the rotors and that design right here with the floating rotor, that is all NASCAR pieces. And then this actual bell right here was custom made to have a RX-7 pattern, but go to, you know, a PFC. This is a PFC rotor, and then adapted it. So there's an adapter for the brake calipers, an adapter here for the brake rotor.
So your shop, like, do you do a lot of the design and development for these parts? Do you make the parts? Like, what is your role in a lot of the custom stuff that you're describing?
Yeah, I mean, like customers don't seem to be wanting like really, like this is like extreme custom, you know, like guys kind of want more of a simple bolt-on solution. I can't always find these brakes like secondhand and buying them brand new, you know, they're like over $5,000 a caliper. So, you know, 25 grand is a big bill for some brakes. But if they wanted me to, yeah, I definitely could make custom one-off pieces and adapt them to, you know, different RX-7s if they needed it.
That's cool. And then this splitter you said is this is from a NASCAR?
This is a Daytona prototype front splitter. So Daytona.
What is Daytona prototype?
So Daytona prototype are the single cockpit professional series race cars that run in like the 24 hours of Rolex. There's a Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3. And then now I think just call them like DP1s and DP2s or something. So this is off of Gen 3, which would be like 2015 era. So it had the most leeway on aerodynamics. A Gen 1 has like just a flat splitter with like two little baby tunnels inside of it. This one has like real large aerodynamic surfaces underneath. So there's a lot going on the underside that you can't see.
Let's pop the hood. I know it's not the prettiest thing in the world because there's a lot of ducting and things going on. But what I think is kind of cool is this car has a lot of like heart and soul from the 787.
Yeah.
And I got to see the 787 in person, and it's the same way.
Yeah.
You can barely see the engine because it's covered and hidden.
Yeah.
All the good stuff is buried underneath.
Yeah, originally I had just like the intake curled over with an air filter, and you can kind of see the the whole entire motor, but it was just breathing all that hot air in, and I was losing like 20 horsepower on a hot day versus a cold day.
Wow.
And 20 horsepower on the track, it wound up being almost 2 seconds in the straightaways. So I really had to focus on making a real air box. This was kind of a quick design that I think turned out fairly decent, but basically it just pulls air from the scoop there and creates a little bit of positive pressure, seals against the hood, and then it just feeds right in here. Got a panel filter right there that kind of goes a long ways. I can pop off this lid and you kind of see the ITBs and stuff at least.
So this is like, you won't hurt my feelings or my soul at all, but how, like on a scale of like 1 to 3, how much are you aware of like some of the details of my 4-rotor setup in the Supra?
Probably a 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
From what you know, what are the biggest issues or hurdles we're gonna run into next when it comes to the car?
Well, I was worried about oil, like you said, because
Yeah.
these engines need so much oil volume. I had to go to an external dry sump. None of the models to comp, like front covers, would actually work. They weren't made for it. So I saw you had like a Chips Motorsports unit, which I didn't know how much testing had been done on them yet, but I mean, it seems like it's been working great. So if that's tackled, then your next hurdles, depending on how much RPM you want to run.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't ever take anything with steel-based seals over 8,900. If you start going 9, 10, or even a little over 10, which I would stop at like 10.5 max with the 4-rotor. There's a lot going on in there to be twisting like 11,000 RPM.
I need it for the title though.
For the title?
It's a YouTube thing. I gotta go to like 13,000 just to say I did it.
13,000.
And then I'll turn it down.
I mean, you'll do it once, but I don't know if he'll come back from it.
I don't know if I'll actually do that,
Yeah.
but
I mean, on this, I've logged accidentally, like on a mishift, it's like smacked like 12.5.
wow.
Yeah, and didn't blow up.
And it's still here.
But you're talking like the briefest fastest rev
Look,
ever.
I could just fake the logs, or I could fake the dyno. So if it's dangerous, we won't take her there. But
well, I mean, you always put the ECU where it puts out like a 1.5 signal, and so the RPM is like 50% higher than it actually is. I see that a lot on YouTube.
I'm really good with Photoshop, so there's that.
I mean, fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, we don't actually do that, but maybe we'll do it. No, we won't do that. You got Penske shocks on this?
Yes. So these are 4-way adjustable Penske shocks. So they have 2 rebound adjustments and 2 bound adjustments. So they're quad way. The ironic thing is I've never adjusted them ever.
Yeah.
Like I had them once, Mike Shank, there's a friend of mine, Dale, that works there, does all suspension, and these were like leaking after the first 2 years running them. And someone had put like the ultra low friction seals inside of them that were basically meant to be rebuilt every single race. So I'm like, why is there all this fluid like coming out of my shock shafts? He's like, dude, he dynoed them and they're like detonating. If a shock has air in it, they can actually detonate on the shock dyno from the compression having air in there. And he's like, yeah, these need major help. So he completely rebuilt them, put the proper seals in them. We just set them as they were, and I've always raced on them like that. So
there's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo that we've been talking about with this car, and for those of you that are familiar with racing stuff, you can see the dollar signs going up and up and up in your brain, but for someone that isn't familiar, there's a lot of expensive stuff on this car.
Yeah.
If you had to estimate what someone would spend to replicate this car,
I mean, just
without labor.
With no labor at all. So just 100% parts. And you have to remember, I got a lot of deals on these parts.
Yeah, like let's just say market value today.
Market value today, probably in the $180,000 range.
That's insane.
Yeah, maybe 170, 180.
So
it's kind of hard to say.
I think I can say the car that you went up against, and it was a selection by me that I felt was like a pretty fun one, especially with 2 high revving cars.
Yeah.
It was a GT3 RS, and that kind of came from my inspiration when I originally wanted to build my 4-rotor FD. I wanted to target a GT3 RS and try to make it drive as nice as a street car GT3 RS would, but then once we did full peripheral port, I realized that probably wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, I'm just going full race car. But I wanted to see the matchup, and it was a pretty cool matchup. I can't reveal anything, and we can't say anything about that.
We can't say anything about it.
But you've got a car that like is, I guess it's not as expensive as GT3 RS, but it's up there.
It's up there. I mean, if I build it for somebody and you include labor, it'd be like, $250,000, $300,000 with all the labor involved.
So let's look inside this beautiful home that you've built.
Yeah, there's a lot covered up for heat purposes. The whole entire tunnel is actually all carbon. I cut out the whole transmission tunnel when I did sequential on the 4-rotor just because it gave me more space. But it was just so insanely hot. So I just threw this like NASCAR heat blanket stuff over it to kind of keep some of that down, because when it's 100 degrees, man, you start baking. Luckily, I got a cool suit to keep water circulating through my upper body. Makes it a lot more manageable, but she's pretty piping hot in the summertime.
I was wondering what was going on with the dash, and then I heard you saying the other day that you actually moved the firewall back in this?
Yeah, so the firewall originally, would be like right in this range. So I kept it kind of blocked out the pedal box area, so it still comes up here, but the actual firewall now is about right there. So I just kind of paneled it in. It kind of made it easier to just work on things. This is the main reason why I did that.
And how much farther did that let you move the engine back?
Engine's extremely far back in the chassis. The front of the motor is actually like almost 2.5 inches further back than the 2-rotor.
No way.
So the entire length of the 4-rotor is 100% back in the chassis.
Wow.
And it's only about 1 inch off the ground. So all that weight is back and low, which makes this car actually heavy in the rear. This is like 49% front heavy, 51% rear heavy.
Wow.
So it has more weight in the rear.
That's probably good for coming out of the corners though.
Oh, it's amazing. So it kind of gives a rear, like a mid-rear engine setup in the way that it handles. Because on a mid-engine in the rear, when you come into a corner, you're kind of trying to lay on the brakes to get the weight to transfer forward. And then as soon as you're on the throttle, it's like completely in your favor. So you can just like whole shot out of it. This is exactly the same way. So someone could probably come from a Porsche, especially like a Porsche Cayman, that's a mid-engine Porsche, and hop in this and feel like completely at home.
That's
cool. Very, very similar in the way it handles.
I'm hoping that once my 4-rotor Supra is done and I have like a decent track setup, we can meet up and we can have both cars on track together and make cool noises. And maybe you can drive the Supra, tell me what you think, and maybe if you trust me with this.
Yeah, I trust you driving it. It may possibly ruin you.
Why? Is it that good?
It's just so badass apparently. Like I've had one pro driver hop in it, Brian Leonard, great guy, and he hopped in it. He drives professional Porsches all day, all kinds of crazy race cars. And he's like, dude, this is like one of my favorite race cars ever. He's like, it's just, I was like, what would you change? He's like, nothing. He's like, leave it exactly the way it is. So he just like loved it.
It'd be cool to own a 787B, drive it, but the in-car videos, it looks gnarly. It doesn't, extremely violent. It doesn't look like an easy car to drive. Watching you drive this car, I'm not saying it looks easy to drive, but it looks like a normal car.
It's not violent. Yeah, it's very, because like I was like, oh, it's so extreme. Like, how do you drive it? I'm like, honestly, I don't know if it's just me because I've driven it so much, but honestly, it's kind of timid, and it does exactly what you want. It never will take you by surprise. The only time it will bite you is if you're on an outlap and it's super cold tires and you try to just get a little aggressive too early, you're like on ice. Yep. But if you got any temperature at all, things are up to temp, it's so predictable. I mean, you can just lift off throttle, the rear end rotates, you hit the throttle, it bites. There's never any understeer, oversteer scenario unless you absolutely want it. It's completely neutral.
All right, so we got the Hoosier A7s in 315s.
Yeah, so these are the baby tires that I put on it. It had 345s in the rear and actually 335s in the front. Going off of a hunch and watching lots and lots of badass race cars that are professional race cars, I started to get the feeling I completely over-tired it. I mean, it worked great, but I felt like it just had too much tire, and I had a theory that shrinking the tire would actually make it go faster.
And did it?
Haven't tested it yet. This is the first track that I've been to, so I need to go back to Mid-Ohio where I have lots of data and compare it to what the 345s did. But I have a feeling, mainly in acceleration, it's going to be so much less to accelerate, that's going to help a lot, and it might have a little more like pounds per square inch. Because when you get wider and wider, you're lowering your pounds per square inch. It's so you kind of want to get that optimal weight. It's more based off weight and power, and it doesn't weigh a lot, and it doesn't have like a boatload of power, so it really doesn't need a 345, I think.
There's so much cool stuff about this car. I feel like we could probably make this video 45 minutes long. I'm not gonna do that, but I really want to see the whole sway bar setup that you have in action.
Yeah, so it's the sway bars. So this is the easiest one to see. So this is the rear blade bar. You can see the cable actuator right there. And these are the two blades. And it moves up and down with the suspension. It has like the little rods that go down there. But these actually rotate from inside the cabin. Do you want me to get a stick?
I'll hold this, and you can rotate it from inside the car. So when would you rotate the sway bar while you're driving? What would the purpose be?
Sometimes corner to corner. That's like a pro driver thing. Like I've never. You can adjust the on the fly.
That's so cool.
And the front is the same way. So you can totally balance the chassis for whatever track you're on, or even corner to corner if you're fast about it. Pro drivers, I guess, do corner to corner adjustments. I just set it where it feels good on the whole track and leave it that way. I did adjust it a little bit for like this track. It took a little rear bar out of it, but otherwise, yeah, it's cool. You can definitely just balance it out.
Kind of ties in with the whole GT3 thing, because I think the GT3s have they're like electric solenoids that raise and lower the sway bars, but that's more like if you want to be cruising on the street versus on the track. I don't think any guys are like actively pressing this button on and off during the corners.
I wouldn't think so. I know like F1 and stuff, they have some of that they're actively like changing on the fly. This setup is off the Daytona prototype also, because when I bought the car, it came with so many spares. So I had like a stack of like all these blade bars that, I mean, if you were to buy those, I mean, they're titanium. The blades are titanium.
Really?
They're just stupid expensive, you know? Luckily, I just had them laying around, and I was like, man, I gotta put those to use. So I modified them because the rear bar was only like this wide. So I just cut it and like stretched it with a big tube, and same with the front. I had to widen the front a little bit, but I got them to work. So it has Daytona blade bars on it now.
So I guess the biggest question that is in my head, and maybe some of the viewers, is like, where do you amass the knowledge of all the random that you've done on this? Like, were you into racing those Daytona prototypes? Is that where a lot of the stuff came from? Or?
It was just like, my whole life has been a journey of striving to get as close to like the absolute peak of motorsport. You know, like I wanted to just get as close as I could. I know I couldn't just buy a pro motorsports car or be on a pro team, so I wanted to at least build one for myself. And so it just kind of led me down this journey, researching all kinds of race parts and then race cars and how they work and what puts them together, and knowing a lot of friends and meeting a lot of people that have that kind of knowledge. You know, like my best friend is an aerodynamicist for like NASCAR, and so he helped me understand how aerodynamics really work and what it really does, and just all kinds of fundamentals that, like, I guess I've been privileged to meet the right kind of people and just have this undying quest of getting more knowledge. And that's kind of the result we have here. I mean, a lot of it's seat of the pants, you know, I just say, like, I guess a God-given talent mixed with just like, well, I think this is going to work, and it usually just kind of does. Some of that just makes me lucky or, you know, fortunate. I don't know which one you want to put into the category of, but yeah, it's a lot of trial and error and learning as much as you possibly can.
Well, it's a very cool car, and like I said, I'm very stoked that you were able to come out. It made my experience of coming out here that much more exciting, knowing that I was going to get to see it and hear it. Yeah. But I think the people watching want to hear it. So
yeah, you got to hear it to really appreciate it. It's definitely a good idea.
I think it's that time.
It's that time.
It's that time.
All right.
The idle on this thing sounds amazing. I'm wondering if mine, because I've never really gotten it up to temp, our cooling system's so good that it idles at like 130, that maybe once it's warmer, it'll start to have a lope like this. So good. Yeah, this straight piped at one point, it was way too loud. It's so good. I want to hear it from up front. I think the induction noise is one of my favorites. Yeah. You can like feel the induction noise in your chest, even above the hood.
You should definitely feel it on a dyno.
Yeah?
Yeah, like it's just all this chaos on a dyno. It just hits you in the chest. It's crazy.
Does it get old every time you start this thing, having people run over with their cell phones and cameras?
It never gets old. No, this makes like my whole life worthwhile, you know, like just spreading like this wild, stupid creation with everybody and just seeing their reaction and like how excited they get. it makes it all worthwhile for sure.
Are you running a lot of premix? Because it doesn't seem like you have as much as I do.
It was running a lot richer earlier. I kind of leaned it out because the tune changed going to Nevada versus Ohio. But I run 1 ounce per gallon. That's all I run.
I don't know how much we
I don't
run.
know if that's heavy. I'd say that's average. Some guys run like 2 ounces per gallon, but yeah, 1 ounce seems to be fine. I don't see a lot of wear and tear or anything in it, so it seems to be working pretty good. But I'm also on 93 octane.
God, oh yeah,
regular pump gas.
that makes sense.
Yeah. I could probably run 87 octane if we want to.
If you ran ethanol, do you think you'd pick up some power?
You know, it's something I want to try. I think based on the research I've done that I would pick up more power. When I this summer I want to revisit like the high power setting because the most I've ever made is like 628 to the wheels. It'd be really cool with this new engine setup that I have now, combined with maybe ethanol. Maybe we could get towards 700 wheel, or at least break 650. That'd be like the most for sure anyone's ever made. So it'd be cool to get there.
That'd be the most anyone's ever made on a 4-rotor?
That I've ever seen to
Really?
the wheels. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get a lot of power. I mean, even the 787B did 690 at the crank, and there's rumors that it's 900, but that's completely not realistic. They just, I think, threw that out there as a number because it's all about torque, right? So the more torque you can make and hold it to the highest possible RPM is how you make real power.
My goal is to make like low to mid 6s. So I guess that might be more of a reach than I initially thought, but
It might be. I mean, I don't know. You just have to mess around with it. It's all in the external tuning mostly, you know, and obviously build an engine that can handle the RPM, but all the power comes from the induction and exhaust.
do rotaries run M1 ever?
I think a lot of drag racers have.
I wonder how that would respond in a 4-rotor.
It might do well. I think anything that you can get some oxygen in the fuel would be a gain. Anything that's related to really low, like super high octane, so it has a real slow burn front, I think that'd be bad for a rotary. Because when I tried race gas, I lost a little bit of power.
That's really interesting.
Because I think the rotary being only 9.7 to 1 compression, or even the RX-8 rotors are 10 to 1. I mean, piston engines are doing like 15 to 1, you know, using that kind of octane.
Yeah.
So I don't think that slow of a burn is beneficial. I think it can kind of hurt power.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this has been fun, and you guys can look forward to seeing this car in what episode were you in? Were you in episode 1 or episode 2?
I think I'm at 2 now.
All right.
Originally it was 1.
All right. Well, anyway, one of the first episodes, you can look forward to seeing Logan and his beautiful RX-7. I appreciate you giving us a little bit more in detail tour, and hopefully in the future we can get on the track together.
Oh, for sure.
Sounds good. Thanks, dude.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that's the video, guys. Next one will probably be some content that I've been filming out here in Vegas. I got to get the Evo out on track. I'm stoked for that, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. So see you soon. Don't forget to enter the giveaway before it's too late. Okay, bye.